The Department of Justice, the FBI, has raided the Fulton County Election Office. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to get in all those details. But for reasons that are become evident, probably not in the order that you thought we were going to talk about it. Peach Pundit The Podcast is a conversation filled with the personal opinions of the people who are participating. Any view or opinion expressed belongs only to the person who expressed it and not with anyone with whom that person is professionally affiliated. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another Peach Pundit The Podcast. We're so excited to have you with us. We have a really busy show for you this morning. It's a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And I was promised snow. My Bernese Mountain Dog was promised snow. I've seen exactly one flurry float by me this morning when I was taking the dog out. But Buzz, you're getting dumped on right now, aren't you?
Well, maybe dumped on's a little bit of exaggeration, but we're getting a lot of snow right now for us. I think we're now in the 4 to 6 inch band.
Holy smoke. That's getting dumped on. And for Georgia, that's getting dumped on. Yeah, I was promised 1 to 2 inches. And it would be, when I woke up in the morning, there would be snow on the ground. But I'm looking out my window over here, and all I see are gray clouds and a little bit of breeze, but not snow. So Joey, the Bernese Mountain Dog, is beside himself.
Joey gets enough snow to play in.
He's indignant right now. He's very emotional. He wears his emotions right in the eyes. He tells you exactly what he's thinking, and with a little bit of chuckle. Rah, 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 rah. So the reason why we're recording on a Saturday morning is because this week has been very busy.
What a week.
It was quite the week. It was quite the week.
Good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, it was all of that. And we're going to start with the good, because the House Majority Caucus, led by Speaker Burns, rolled out their property tax relief bill. Were you at the Capitol when they had their press conference?
I was.
Yeah.
But the acoustics in that building, you need to be right there on the floor where they are to really hear. So I couldn't really hear the explanation, much of the details. But yeah, it looked like pretty much everybody in the House Republican caucus was lined up behind Speaker Burns and the podium as he and Representative Shaw Blackman laid things out.
And they definitely did. And I'm glad that you brought up, it was hard to hear the details, because we're going to give you the details right after this.
Peach Pundit has an anonymous Patreon who would like to invite you to learn more about the Alzheimer's Association. The Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. No one should fight Alzheimer's alone. With your help, no one will. Learn more on their website, alz.org.
Americans for Prosperity Georgia is out in communities across the state celebrating the policy wins of the last several years and casting a vision for what the future holds. Visit peachstateplaybook.org. That's peachstateplaybook.org to learn more about the game plan for freedom and prosperity. Because to win, you have to call the right plays. Thank you to our friends at AFP for being a partner-level Patreon. We appreciate all of our Patreons. If you too would like to join the people who rock, that's what we call our Patreons, you can head on over to patreon.com/peachpundit. Sign up for any one of those tiers. Randall Trammell joined this week. We really appreciate that. Welcome, Randall, to the people who rock.
Yeah.
Randall immediately joined our Signal chat that all of our Patreons get. We have quite the community going on in there. We talk about all kinds of things, not just politics, but most of it is just plain funny and entertaining. So if you join, we'll be happy to add you to that as an immediate benefit to being on our Patreon list. Thank you to our Patreons. So Buzz, the acoustics are kind of weird in the building.
Yes.
So I've done some time reading and trying to study this thing and break it down, the points of it. our friends at Georgia Public Policy Foundation have also put out
Yeah.
some good information.
If you get their Friday Facts newsletter, there was a paragraph, high level, but gives you the a good sketch of the outline of what the House is trying to do.
Right. And it's important to note this is a constitutional amendment.
Yes.
So there are two pieces of legislation. There is the constitutional amendment itself, which is H.R. 1114. And then there's the enabling legislation that should that constitutional amendment pass, which is it requires supermajorities in both chambers. That's a heavy lift by itself because the Republicans are nowhere close to a supermajority on their own. So they will need Democratic support in order for this to pass. And then
so the enabling legislation is House Bill 1116.
Right.
If folks want to go read it.
Right. So it's H.R. 1114 and House Bill HB 1116. Now, we're going to break down what the enabling legislation does first, which is it phases in a bigger statewide homestead exemption. So the core of the concept is that there'd be no local ad valorem taxes on a homeowner's primary residence.
Right.
So if you own the home and you live there, you would qualify for this, but it does not address, and it leaves out rental properties, second homes, commercial properties. All of that would still be subject to local property taxes.
Right. So really the home that you get if a homestead exemption on is the property we're talking about here.
Yeah. I guess I should go file my homestead, huh? That's a whole other story. But so the phase-in would kind of work like this. Between 2026 and 2028, it would be up to $10,000. From 29 to 30, it would be up to $30,000. And then after 2031, it would be up to $60,000. And basically what that means, because your property is taxed at 40% of market value, the $60,000 exemption is assessed on a value of roughly $150,000 of market value.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And then there is the constitutional amendment language that contemplates that all homestead properties become fully exempt from local government and school system ad valorem taxations at a certain date, which the enabling legislation says that's 2031.
Right.
And so a big question becomes, how are local governments going to get paid?
Yes, you're going to take this money away. And that I think that will be a fascinating, fascinating debate, Scott, especially when it comes to schools, because, as everybody knows, the biggest chunk of your property tax bill goes to help fund your local schools. Now, the bill, as Georgia Public Policy pointed out, it allows local governments and school systems to replace that money via a sales tax. And so, what percent sales tax is it going to be? All these questions, all these sorts of things need to be fleshed out and debated and I'm sure they will be. The school system has a very strong group of lobbyists at the Capitol, having fought many school choice battles against those folks over the years. They have a powerful lobby, and I'm sure if the Speaker and Representative Blackman have not already, they're going to hear from them. Local governments too, of course, through GMA and ACCG.
Right.
And I look, Speaker Burns and our pal Chairman Blackman, they're smart, savvy legislators. I'm sure those folks have been at the table. That's not to say that they're in agreement. I'm not trying to imply that. We don't know yet. But I'm sure that this did not come as a surprise to those groups.
Yeah. So the cap on local sales tax is actually in the constitutional amendment portion of this. And it puts a cap of 2% on total. So all the combined local sales use and excise taxes leveled by local school boards.
Wow. And I guess one other thing, speaking of caps, the other properties that would still remain eligible for property taxes, they're capped at 3%, no more than 3% growth per year. in those property taxes. So it's not just eliminating it; it's also capping the growth of these things, right? So,
Right.
because that's been a big complaint that people have had, that in 1 year, the value of their property goes up significantly, and thus the assessment goes up significantly, and people get hit with a huge tax bill.
Here in Cherokee, we have a homestead exemption freeze. So if you file your homestead, it freezes your property taxes at that level of market value in perpetuity. Uh, if counties were to adopt that, it would address if local delegations, these are all local bills.
Yeah.
I know this happens in Cherokee. I know there are other jurisdictions.
Mhm.
The Muskogee, I think, also has this, but it creates this fixed set of costs. So if you are an older person on a fixed income and you're
Yeah.
worried about being
Yeah,
taxed out of the home, if you
You've got to
had
pre-
this in your
Yeah.
community, you would know what your property taxes were going to be 5 years from now, regardless of what the market value is, because it would be set in stone,
Right.
the value of what you're now. There are critics of that plan who say it creates inequities because the counties and local governments have to raise millage rates on everybody else to compensate for those properties.
Right.
So this proposal would handle everybody who has
Right. It
across the state.
it would supersede those
Right.
various local things. And
But we haven't fully answered also, how are the local governments going to get paid yet?
yeah, right. That's the big question. And of course that's also the Senate. Obviously, it wants to go the eliminate income tax route, or at least two people in the Senate, the lieutenant governor and the Senate Appropriations Chair, want to get rid of the income tax. So that's interesting. It's a similar sort of question. All right, we're going to we're going to eliminate this method of taxation. In the Senate, it's income tax. In the House, it's your homestead, property taxes on your homestead. Both, I would imagine, very popular among voters. Which one are we going to go with? Are we going to go with some mix of both in the end?
Right.
And then, of course, Scott, you hit on the real question here is, are we going to shrink the size of government by that amount of money? Probably not.
No.
So where are you getting the money?
No.
How are you going to pay for it instead?
And
everybody seems to say sales tax, and that's great. But
no, the House bill doesn't say just sales tax, because obviously it's capping it for school boards.
Right.
So the plan actually does anticipate local governments sending homeowners an annual bill for specific services.
Okay.
Examples cited include things like garbage pickup, lighting for your streetlights, stormwater. You don't realize it, but your local government is making sure your house isn't getting flooded, and that's a service they're providing to you. But you're paying for that through your property taxes. Fire protection. Your house may never be on fire, but everybody gets a benefit when we have a well-funded, well-trained fire department. So supporters argue that this is not a tax, but a cost-based assessment or a fee. When I was in the legislature, I would always say a fee is just a tax by another name. What happens if they don't pay their fees? Are they defaulting on their property taxes? Do the local governments have any way to force people?
Does the fire department say, hold on, my house, you call 911, the fire department says, hold on, you're on the list of people who haven't paid your fire department taxes, so
I don't know if
fire
that's
department fees
really going to happen.
So good luck to you.
Imagine for a second getting a bill in the mail saying, we need $75 from you this year. I'm just making up numbers. $75 from you this year for your portion of the police budget. And that's, you're just being it's just a cost. It's a fee that we're charging you.
The defund the police crowd can say, I'm not paying it.
Right. So what happens then?
But I still want to be protected when I need it.
When it's property taxes, and you don't pay your property taxes, the government comes and takes your house.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's an interesting thing, Scott, because we you kind of, it's always been assumed we pay taxes, and it's not really a fee for service type of understanding, with a few exceptions. Like at the state level, right? If I'm an engineer and I need to get a engineer's license, I understand I have to pay a fee every year to get that license so that I can go do business. I have to incorporate my business, therefore I have to pay fees to do that, and we can understand that. But the general things, the common goods, so to speak, of fire and police and etc., roads and so forth, are just kind of, I pay the tax, the government figures out how much it needs in each of those categories, and it goes and does it on my behalf. So this is interesting, and I think I can envision. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but I can envision a couple years from now complaints coming in, big arguments about, well, the county wants to charge me X dollars for fire service. I think that's way too much. And people getting mad every time they see a shiny new fire truck drive down the road. I don't think they should. Why couldn't they use the old one? Why do I have to pay for that? So it could, I don't know.
So the bill does contemplate what happens if they don't pay. And, today they take your house. This would be a lien for unpaid assessments. So they would come and get the money when you sold your house.
Yeah.
So if you're an elderly person, you're like, I'm not going to pay. It's just your house will be placed under a lien. And then when you go to sell your house, you're going to pay one way or another. Take their money at that point. But by then it could be a decade before, or more even, before that happens. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Because again, it does need a constitutional majority of, or a supermajority of 120 votes in the House. What's 2/3 of 56? I can't ever do math. My public school education, sorry. But you 32 votes in the Senate?
Yeah. Let me do a little rapid math real quick. But that sounds right.
That's a heavy lift based on the majorities that the Republicans have in the legislature. And also, you mentioned it too.
38.
38. So you need 38 votes in the Senate in order to get this passed, in addition to the 120. The Republican majorities are not close to that. And frankly, because of the school issue that you mentioned, there are legislators in the Republican caucuses in both chambers who are very sensitive to not angering their local school systems.
Sure.
Because in their counties, their local school system oftentimes are the largest employer in their district.
Yeah.
So, but it's all part of this larger agenda that I think the Republicans in Georgia put together.
Can I say one more thing real quick, Scott? I applaud the House and the Senate for thinking outside the box. There hasn't been major substantial changes to these taxes in a long, long time. So let's have the debate. Absolutely. Put plans. I love it. People are putting plans on the table. There's got to be vigorous debate over which path should we go, or should we do a mix of reform on both of these? So I love it. I applaud the leaders of the House and the Senate for doing this.
And it's part of what the Republicans in Georgia at your state capitol have put together as part of a larger effort to address affordability issues that are facing Georgians today. And it should have been the number one story. This is huge.
Yes.
It absolutely should have been the number one story. However, it wasn't.
No.
Because on the same day, the Department of Justice raided the Fulton County Election Office. And if you thought I was going to start that topic just now, you're wrong.
Because we're not distracted from the real important stories going on.
Exactly. Exactly. There are so many great things coming out of your Capitol. We're going to get to the DOJ thing, I promise. But I just want to point out, on the same day, right, there's so many people that know all about the DOJ raiding the FBI, but they don't know about this historic proposal that has been made by the House Republicans here, because they got trampled on by this bigger story that happened on the same exact day. I will categorize that.
Maybe at the same time. I'd have to think about the timeline. Might be at the same time as Speaker Burns was making the announcement that the DOJ is knock, knock, knock.
Right. It was roughly, but I mean, it was a huge press conference. Every
Yes.
state media outlet every media outlet in the state right there. You had dozens and dozens of legislators on the steps behind John Burns as he presented this piece of legislation to the public for the first time.
Yep.
And it wasn't the leading story, and it absolutely should have been.
Yep.
Because Republicans in the House are taking the issues that are important to Georgians very seriously. Mm-hmm. And keeping with that theme, the next thing we're going to talk about is a bill by Todd Jones about portable benefits. And you signed on a letter supporting this, so I'm going to let you kind of run through it. We also have a guest post from Austin Bannon, an employment fellow at Americans for Prosperity, over at the blog. You can read to get up to speed in more detail.
Yeah. So Representative Jones has introduced this bill. There's a number of organizations behind it.
It's HB 987.
Yes. And what it does, the simple explanation is, if you are a contractor with a company, and so think of it this way: if you're an Uber driver, for example, or you drive DoorDash, for example, then that's part of how you make money to support your family.
Or you're just an independent contractor who,
of all sorts of. You probably don't have health insurance. You probably don't have a 401k. All this menu of benefits that full-time W-2 employees routinely get. And have opportunity to contribute their own earnings into retirement plans, for example, 401k plans, etc. So this bill would put some formal structure around allowing that to happen. Now, as the bill was being debated, some of the legislators pointed out, well, they can already do this. Why do we need a law around it? And Representative Jones made a great point. There are probably many companies holding back because of the confusion around Scott, if you're my Uber driver and I'm Uber, and you say, I want you to direct some of my money and put it into a retirement account, does that constitute making you an employee of mine instead of a subcontractor of mine? And there's probably some companies holding back saying, the IRS is a vindictive organization. I don't want to fight that fight. So you're on your own.
Elizabeth Warren has tried over the years to make DoorDash, Uber drivers, the gig economy, employees of those organizations, which drives up the cost astronomically of their services.
Exactly. So this bill would clarify that and say, no, you are not. And then thus, I think it would knock down the doors. You'd see many of these companies that rely on contractors for work say, sure, we're happy to help facilitate, set aside some of your money, whatever you tell us that we were going to pay you. Say we were going to pay you $1,000. You say, I want $100 to go to XYZ, a retirement account to help cover my health care, whatever you choose. So it's really empowering and opens up, put some structure, as I said, and opens up the world of benefits that W-2 employees get all the time to subcontractors and 1099 employees. So that's it in an essence.
Right. So self-employed workers could open a portable benefits account offered by a financial institution or some other approved entity. It could be an HSA or something.
Sure.
And the accounts could then be funded directly by workers or their business clients.
Mm-hmm.
So DoorDash or Uber would be able to put money directly into that account on behalf of their subcontractor. And that would compensate their workers for the services that they provide. And then the workers could spend that money from those accounts as they see fit on benefits that they have, like health expenses or new business or new benefit offerings from providers, like health insurance or unemployment insurance even. So or disability insurance, if you get hurt and can't work, it'd be sort of like an Aflac scenario. retirement benefits, 401k or an IRA. It empowers the individual small business entrepreneur. The
Yeah.
American dream is built on this promise that you can be anything you want to be, and you can hang your name on a shingle, and you can go to work for yourself and be your own boss. It's part of what we promise. Like, you can be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. But over the years, we've created all this bureaucracy and all these hurdles and hoops that entrepreneurs have to jump through. And the self-starters, the rugged individualism that's part of our DNA as Americans, we're putting all these hoops in front of them, saying, no, you can't do this. You can't get access. You can't blah, blah, blah. And we're only discouraging people from being able to take care of themselves, to start that business, or to get behind the wheel of the car and drive Uber. Like, if you ever talk to an Uber driver, I've never talked to an Uber driver. I've been on hundreds and hundreds of Uber rides at this point. I've never talked to an Uber driver who says, I hate this job.
No.
If you ask them,
they enjoy it.
How do you like? I love it because I set my own schedule. I work when I want to work. And if I have a financial goal, I know I can make it if I put the work in. And it's all up to me. And I don't have a boss. And it's great.
Yep.
They love it.
And as Todd Jones pointed out, this is the trend in employment. The more and more and more people are working in these kinds of jobs. And so this is a modernization of the economy, and especially these younger generations, Gen Z and millennials. This is how they want to work. Many of them, not all of them, of course. A lot of them want to just have a regular W-2 job like the previous generations. But a whole lot of them want to do what you were just describing, Todd. They love Scott. I'm just throwing out names here. They love the flexibility that this affords them, and they want to take advantage of that.
Right.
And
I mean, of course, it's going to appeal to the people who have an entrepreneurial spirit. They want to be able to take care of themselves. They need to be able. I mean, and frankly, it's just Todd Jones, wherever you are, you get the Peach Pundit thumbs up.
Exactly. Now, there was one last thing I'll say about this. There was a pilot project here in Georgia that DoorDash operated to see if their employees would like this. And, well, not their employees, their contractors would like this. And they loved it. It was incredibly popular.
Yeah, it was a 6-month pilot program, first half of 25. 5,500 people took advantage of that and opened the optional accounts. And then they used the money for health insurance, income replacement, putting money aside for future benefits and other benefits. The results and just that small experiments show how valuable portable benefits could be to Georgia's full independent workforce made permanent. They said nearly 75% of respondents who do not already have access to all the benefits they wanted or needed gained access that they would not have been able to otherwise.
Yep. Now, there are over 1 million people, from the numbers that I've seen, who receive 1099s in the state of Georgia. So they're doing some sort of contract work. Almost all those people. I don't think that included the 1099K form that people get for being part of an investment. But all the other forms of 1099, mostly miscellaneous income, over 1 million of them in Georgia. So there's a lot of the market. The potential for this is pretty big.
Yep. Again, Republicans,
Yeah.
putting together an agenda addressing the needs and concerns around affordability of our citizens right here at home. And we're telling you about that because it got drowned out. It was a really important story that came out this week. And if you're hearing about it for the first time from us, it's kind of the point. It's kind of the point. Because when we come back from break, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about what was actually the biggest news story of the week, but should not have been.
Golden Retriever Rescue of Atlanta, GRRA, is an all-volunteer, tax-deductible charitable organization. They are dedicated to providing veterinary care, comprehensive evaluation, and foster and adoptive homes to Golden and Labrador Retrievers who are abandoned, mistreated, neglected, or left in shelters throughout Georgia. We encourage you to visit their website grra.com and help connect people and dogs that need each other in their lives. You truly can make this world a better place by helping find homes of gold for these golden-hearted pups.
So on Wednesday, Buzz and I were standing together on the third floor of the Capitol, just outside the Speaker's office, when a government bureaucrat, who shall remain nameless, walked by and said,
and hurriedly walked by. Oh, not quite a sprint, but it wasn't a relaxed stroll down the hallway.
He was
there.
pretty animated.
Yes.
I think it's fair to describe him as animated. He said, the FBI is raiding Fulton County elections. And I think my reaction was, what?
Right.
I had the Don Draper. What? He's like, check your phone. I'm like, what? He goes, check your phone. And he went hurriedly down the staircase. And I was like, I don't want to check my phone.
Yeah. Well, then a few minutes later, one of the Capitol reporters came by and said, well, I guess I better get my car and go over there and see what the heck's going on.
Yeah. That's right. We were sitting there and one of them came up. It's like, they stopped by to talk to us about it. Like, do you have any reaction? And we're like, look, I've been asked all week since this happened on Wednesday. I've been asked, what's your take? What do you think's going on? Obviously Jason Shepard has been following this election stuff.
Yes.
For a while. He's got a series of articles I would commend you to read on the blog. But here's my take. I don't have a take. That's my take. Listen, it's too early to tell what's happening here. And I'm not going to rush to support one narrative or the other. My job, I think, in this world is to call balls and strikes. And at this moment in time, I do not have enough information to pass judgment on what's happening here. The Democrats are saying this is a threat to democracy. The Republicans are saying, see, we told you.
Yes.
Neither of those make sense to me.
No, because these ballots have been examined more than once, right?
Yes, they have been. And,
I guess they haven't been examined by Tulsi Gabbard. I guess that's the...
Yeah. So let's get into that for a second, because it's kind of weird. Isn't she supposed to be the foreign threat?
Yeah.
Person?
She's the director of national intelligence,
which is an organization that is outward looking.
Yeah. And in case you haven't noticed, there's some really big things happening around the globe that the director of national intelligence should be interested in.
Like Iran?
Yeah.
According to Marjorie Taylor Greene, because the Epstein files were published and then brought back to her, she posted on Twitter that it's Friday and that happened. Maybe the Iran bombing will start any moment now. Now, as of Saturday morning, that has not happened yet. So
yeah, well, it's imminent, but it was imminent.
It's been imminent. It continues to be imminent
for a while,
and it's going to be
imminent
for into the future.
Yes,
we don't know what's going to happen, but Donald Trump has
separate from
projected
Epstein.
A lot there. But Tulsi Gabbard shows up in Atlanta to personally observe.
Yeah,
and we learned since Wednesday that the local director of the FBI office in Atlanta, there's an article that came out yesterday that the Atlanta FBI boss reportedly was ousted after questioning the Department of Justice renewed interest in the 2020 election. The agent's name in charge was Paul W. Brown. He reportedly voiced concern about the FBI's unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud in Fulton County, and he's out.
Yeah.
This was a story that we heard in Rumor, and then the AP. Katie Brumbeck has a story from the AP that was published this week describing the raid, and there was one paragraph which sort of buried saying that Paul Brown was out, but they're not discussing it. The FBI is not discussing it. They're calling it an internal personnel matter. But this article from The Guardian says the reason he's out is because he disagreed with the FBI doing this.
Yeah, Scott, because the GBI looked into this stuff. The FBI looked into this stuff.
Can I just 1 second about that?
They concluded. I mean,
Donald Trump's FBI looked into this in 2020.
Yep.
When Donald Trump was still president of the United States.
Yep.
They looked into it then. Okay.
Yep. And not just in Georgia, all over the country.
Right.
Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, all the hot spots.
Correct.
They could not find widespread systemic fraud. They found fraud.
Right.
Because there always is.
So when I was in the legislature in 2020, one of the things that we heard about was this conspiracy theory called hammer and scorecard. And it was debunked almost immediately. And it continues to be shopped.
Yeah, because conspirators don't come up with cool names like that. They just go do something. They don't sit around first
this
having...
This gets pretty wild.
Let's think about the marketing of our conspiracy here. Let's call it hammer and... What did you call it? Hammer and
scorecard.
And scorecard, yeah.
Well, we'll get to what it is in just a second. But I just want to point out to you, we started this conversation questioning, why was Tulsi there? She looks outward. Our own Atlanta FBI guy said, I don't want to be part of this. So he got moved from his spot. Either he quit or he was fired. One of the two. We don't know which. And then the next day, Donald Trump posts this on Truth Social. It was a repost from an account called the SCIF. I'm going to read it in its entirety. Okay. It's all capitalized, so I thought maybe I'd just read the letters.
Well, a SCIF is a secure room where you can look at classified information.
Right. And supposedly nothing leaks out of that, and it can't be penetrated by, like, Italian satellites.
Secrets, yes, or Jewish space lasers.
Right. This is what the post that the president reposted from this account. Maria Zack, that would be Maria Strollo-Zack, for those of us who know her that way here in Georgia activist class activities. Maria Zack testified about the stolen 2020 election operation connected to Obama when he diverted $400 million from the infamous pallets of cash sent to Iran, funneling through the Dubai embassy to operatives in Italy and Merrill Lynch in Geneva, Switzerland. That's the first paragraph. I'll get back to the rest of it in just a second. I know Maria Strollo-Zack. I wouldn't say I know her super well. She's recently moved away to Florida. I see her from time to time at other events. I don't know how she would have access to firsthand knowledge of any of this. I'm just saying, like, there is nothing in her background that gives her intelligence level international espionage access to information. How she was able to testify about it, I would immediately question based upon...
And testify before what entity? Who did she...
It doesn't say here.
Testify.
She's testified.
Before.
Right?
And that implies that she went under oath and swore...
The problem here, though, is that people who read this don't know who she is, and there's no credentials here. It's just a lady named Maria Zack said...
Yeah.
Does she have expertise? Is she involved? What's her job title? None of that fits here. The second paragraph, in return for funneling that money using the uranium pallets of cash. So it continues. In return, Italian officials at Leonardo SPA used military satellites to help hack U.S. voting machines, flipping votes from Trump to Biden using CIA developed tools like hammer and scorecard, along with numerous other methods of fraud and manipulation. China reportedly coordinated the whole operation, providing the tech backbone and bribes to corrupt Americans. The CIA oversaw it. The FBI covered it up, all to install Biden as a puppet. This is the global election fraud cartel and the real threat against American democracy and the rest of the world.
There you go. The whole case is blown wide open, Scott. It's blown wide open.
Now look.
Everything that anybody ever said is true.
Now look. There's two data points here, right? There is Tulsi Gabbard, whose job is to evaluate foreign threats to America. And then the next day, the president posts this about foreign interference with our election.
That guy's tweet was maybe last week, week before. He's a very active tweeter.
Right.
I scanned through and I found it. That tweet is in his original tweet that Trump truthed is in the post I wrote about this matter.
So you have these two different data points. Are they connected? We don't know. But They happened in a very small frame of time together, where we saw Tulsi Gabbard watching the FBI cart off all of the ballots and other election documents that had been under court seal and therefore preserved at the Fulton County Election Office since 2020. Look, again, what's my take? It's too early to tell. Could there be a legitimate reason? Yeah, I think there could be. The election, and what is Jason calling them now? The election integrity industrial complex?
Yes.
I call it the cottage industry of grifters. They're all fired up about this. I saw one of them at the ropes telling legislators, see, I told you. See, I told you. And we've seen some Republicans who are in office right now trying to run for higher office say, see, I told you. See, I told you. And what did you tell us? Like, oh, that they double scan ballots? Yeah, we've known about that. We tried to account for it. That they goofed up the tapes. They didn't sign them. Doesn't mean that the ballots were illegal. They didn't follow a rule, but they followed the law. They didn't follow the rule. So we know about all these things. We know that there were people who voted that they shouldn't have voted. This has all been documented. We've been talking about that for 5 years now.
Yeah.
And we've known about all those things. So you're acting like this is all new stuff, but it's the people who take this job seriously have been trying to account for that. And frankly, legislators have been trying to put things in place to clean up the voter rolls, for instance. We have a bill that'll be rolling out next week that my organization is going to be supporting that's going to help voters cancel their registration when they move here in the state that they came from. We're working that bill in several states so that we can help provide yet another way for the states to clean up voter information in a way that's easy for and a service to the voter. And also, like, this is also confuses me why anybody would want to get out of ERIC. We're removing hundreds of thousands of people off of our voter rolls because of ERIC. And because, again, it's all of the anti-ERIC stuff is
because,
and if you don't know, it's
unproven.
ERIC is a system where states voluntarily join it so that when people move around, they're notifying the state where somebody moved away from and canceling their old voter registration. It's a really slick little program.
And they also check it against the Social Security death records, right? Because
it's several different data points. But there's an effort to get Georgia out of ERIC, and it's a tool for us to keep our voter rolls clean. I don't understand why people wouldn't want us to be in it. So again, there are very serious efforts afoot to deal with these things. Nobody's ignoring them. Nobody's denying that they're, well, I know that there are some who like to say the most secure election in history or blah, blah, blah. And that's sort of hyperbole.
Right.
But the really serious-minded people who are in the election integrity movement understand there are problems and we need to work on them and provide solutions. But this doesn't feel like that to me.
No.
It feels two things. One, an undying desire to want to declare the result of 2020 invalid for whatever reason, as if it would change anything. You will never go back and undo the fact that Joe Biden was president of the United States. Did I like it? No. Did I vote for him? Hell no. Would I ever? Hell no. Never voted for Joe Biden. Never would. But he was president of the United States. And he's not now. And he's never going to be again. So Republicans in the House, and a lot of them in the Senate, are focused on issues that are important to Georgia. And all of their work is getting drowned out by this.
Yeah. Well, that's the Trump way, right? I mean, that is.
If we take
we have good stuff happening
during the midterms, it will because we can't get out of our own way and allow our serious-minded Republicans put together good conservative legislation that helps the individual person in this state. You want to guess how important the idea of relitigating the 2020 election is to the average, just Republican?
Very, very way down, way down on the list if it registers much at all. Outside of, I like Jason's term, the stolen election industrial complex. Outside of that group, nobody cares.
The biggest issue facing Georgians and therefore Georgia legislators heading into these elections this year is cost of living. 73% of Georgians say that's their biggest issue. That means that the rest of them aren't even close.
Right.
And the second issue is healthcare.
Yeah, because that's tied to cost of living.
Portable benefits.
Yeah, because healthcare costs continue to rise despite Obamacare supposedly fixing everything.
The next one is taxation.
Yeah, again, cost of living tied in right into cost of living. Right.
Cost of living, healthcare, taxation, top big issues. What are the Republicans in the legislature working on? What did we lead with? Why did I bury this story until after we talked about those other things? Because they're working on the issues that are important to Georgia.
Yep.
But if you're in this election integrity crowd, you're killing Republicans.
Yep.
You're killing them. We are going to get slaughtered. And it's not going to be because our serious-minded, policy-minded, liberty-minded, limited government-minded, free market-minded Republicans aren't trying their damnedest to get their message out. You're trampling them with stuff like this.
Yep.
So that you can say that Donald Trump was the actual winner in 2020, which accomplishes what? Absolutely nothing. Stop getting in the way of my Republican legislators. You're killing us. Stop. All right. Look, my blood pressure has been really good. It has. It's been really good.
Yeah. But you're right, Scott.
Today, it may not.
Yeah. And it is. I mean, you're exactly right. And this is for all their claims that, this is about the future, not the past. It is about the past. It's exactly what you said. It is. It's they absolutely want to prove that 2020 was stolen, but nobody cares. Outside, my post to me, you're not going to change anybody's mind because you're not going to find a smoking gun because no smoking gun exists. Look at these ballots for 10,000 times. You're not going to find a smoking gun because there is no smoking gun. So the true believers are going to continue to believe. The anti-Trump people are going to continue to be rock solid in their viewpoint. And the independents say, I don't care about that. Talk to me about affordability and cost of living. And as you said, Scott, that's what Republicans in Georgia, at least, are trying to do.
Right. And I just want to be clear, right? I'm not denying that there are problems. I've never been one of the people who will tell you that it's the most secure, cleanest election in history. I'm not saying that. Two things can be true at once.
Yeah.
There can be problems. We had Derek Somerville on this podcast, and he said, in spite of the problems, he believes that Joe Biden was a legitimate winner in Georgia.
Yeah.
And Derek Somerville found all these thousands of records of people. And I know a lot of people are using that information, but out of his own words.
Right.
And at our last podcast of 2026, I sat down with him for a full hour plus. And he said at the end of that podcast, no, I don't think that Georgia declared the wrong winner in spite of all the problems. That doesn't mean there aren't problems. Two things can be true at one time. I am not going to hide from the problems that are out there. I want to try to help fix them. And I am trying to help fix them. I am engaged in the election integrity world, just not that way. I'm actually trying to find solutions that fix these problems.
There's two election integrity worlds. One is focused on the future and how we can make a system run by human beings better.
Right.
The other is constantly trying to and dredging up these kind of ridiculous conspiracies that Italian satellites controlled by the Chinese, bribed by Obama. Come on.
Yeah.
But Scott, this, kind of the theme of my post is on Peach Pundit about all this. My fear is coming true that this issue of 2020 is coming to dominate the Republican primary for governor, and it will certainly dominate the Republican primary for Secretary of State. And it's just, you're going to turn off, you're not going to change any hearts and minds, and you're going to turn off the very people we need to win because you're not talking about the important issues. And this is going to be fodder because, yes, they will find, as you said, Scott, they will find the mistakes and the foibles and the incompetencies of Fulton County Elections Office, and that will be used to smash Brad Raffensperger and Chris Carr upside the head,
And that's the second part
as
of
if
this.
they could, as if they could fix what has been unfixable for as long as I've been in politics in this state. Fulton County has screwed things up as long as I've been in politics.
This is the second part of this, is the timing.
Yes.
We do have a gubernatorial race. Brad Raffensperger is running for governor. So is Chris Carr, and so is Burt Jones. And there's some other candidates out there. Those three of the
Clark Dean is the fourth Republican.
I know we have listeners who are telling me I need to go meet Clark Dean because he's like this, whatever.
Yes.
When
his name pops
above,
up from time to time. Yes.
When he gets above 5% polling, have him come talk to me. Until then, I don't see a reason why he should waste his time talking to me and me him, but mostly him talking to me. Here's the thing. A lot of people brought this up, and I think you might have a take on this too, that it feels like that because of the timing of it, that it is purely political.
Yeah. Almost, I don't think purely political, because you're right, that urge within Trump to prove that he was right is very, very strong. And therefore, people like Tulsi Gabbard, who's kind of been sidelined since she opposed, we haven't heard much from her since she opposed Trump's bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities some months ago.
And she was not involved in the Venezuela issue at all. So, but anyway, continue.
Yeah. So, right. So, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, I think Tulsi wants to get back in Trump's good graces. How do you do that? You go prove that the election was stolen, and she will be Trump's hero forever. She will be Trump's hero forever. Right. But yeah, this feels like it has a 2026 component to it. And I'm not the only crazy one who thinks that. Patricia Murphy at the AJC wrote about that too. She also threw in some other weird stuff.
Well, then
about
you're not
how,
in good company.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm in good company, but
she's certainly partisan.
Look, hey, if the election conspiracy folks can say I stand alone in my crazy conspiracy, then so can I.
Well, it's sure to reverberate, and it's going to have impact, and that's sort of the point. Is we've got all this great stuff happening, and that's what we should be talking about. But instead, it sucked all the oxygen out of the room when they're talking about this.
Yep.
Another piece of legislation I want to bring to your attention that nobody's talking about, except for nerds like me, is Alan Powell has a piece of legislation. Now, I got to back this up just a little bit, because Alan's bills typically were the ones I voted against. And it's not because I didn't like Alan. I actually really enjoy Alan's company.
Me too. Yes.
He's a great storyteller. He's just a good guy to be around.
And I'll add this, Scott. I served on government affairs with him. If you want to learn how to drill down and break down a bill, that dude knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Very skilled. Not for, just because he's a good legislator. He knows how to do that.
Right.
And he helped me numerous times, just learning and watching from him how to make a bill better to accomplish what you really want to accomplish. So.
Yeah. And I think early in my legislative career, he was annoyed by me because I would vote no and on his stuff. Like one time in my very first legislative session, I was encouraged, when you were going to vote against one of your caucus members, your fellow caucus members, piece of legislation, you go talk to them. And me and another guy approached him on the floor to ask him some questions. We hadn't made up our mind, but we had questions about it. And it was the day of the vote. Brand new. Like, I've been in office maybe 3 or 4 weeks now, and I'm like, hey, Chairman, I have a question for you. And he turned around and he snapped at me and the other guy, y'all just go vote no. Leave me alone. And he walks off.
Like, I got a quick Alan Powell story. It was, I can't remember if it was Sine Die or crossover day. One of those days when we just got a gazillion bills and we're running through them. I got my big stack and I'm reading ahead. All right, what's coming up next? I'm reading. Chairman Powell is in the well. He's talking about his bill. The bell rings. I have no idea what this bill that we're voting on is about. I lean over to my seatmate, who was a very religious man, and if the bill had anything to do with the alcohol industry, which apparently this bill did, he would vote against it. And so he just says, Buzz, is bad bill, vote no. Heck, if he thinks it's a bad bill, it's a bad bill. So I vote no. Alan happened to be standing behind me. He said, Buzz, why did you vote against my bill? Chairman Powell, I just came clean. Chairman Powell, I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry. My seatmate said, vote no, so I voted no. Well, your seatmate's a good man. So a little while later, he goes back to his seat. A little while later, he says, hey, Buzz, come here. Do you drink? I said, no, I don't. But look, looking at your bill now, I would have voted for it. So I'm sorry. I'm not, I don't stand in the way of those things. But personally, that's just me. I don't drink. He goes, do you smoke? I said, no. He goes, well, do you run around on your wife? I said, no. And he goes, well, what the hell are you doing here? I have asked myself that question many times, Chairman Powell.
He has HB 903. And before I get into the bill, I showed up in committee to testify in favor of it. And I think that surprised Alan a little bit.
His jaw dropped, I'm sure.
It didn't drop. He doesn't, you're not going to get a jaw dropping moment from Alan Powell. He drops jaws. He does
no,
not.
That's true.
He does not drop his own. He will make you drop yours. But he leans down and he says to me, I don't think you've ever given me credit for being the stubborn son of a bitch that I am. And I looked up at him. I said, no, sir, I've always given you credit for that. So, but what the bill does is it places all state authorities. So we're talking about rulemaking boards, professional licensing boards, downtown development authorities, all state authorities, agencies under the Administrative Procedures Act. And if you don't know what that is, that's okay. You're not a nerd like me, because I do. I'm actually really excited about this bill, if for no other reason. When I was in the House at one point in time, there was a new board being created. And I attempted to amend that bill on the floor to put that board under the Administrative Procedures Act. And I lost that vote. I think there were 4 yes votes. So I've been trying to do this for over a decade. And now that board, I'm looking forward to the sponsor of that legislation, who fought me on that amendment on the floor, voting in favor of this legislation, because it has been blessed by leadership in the House and is a really good piece of legislation. The Administrative Procedures Act does several things. The first thing it does is it creates a mandatory public comment period. So if you are a professional licensing board and you're going to say, the legislature says that we can create a number of hours for continuing education for this particular type of profession, and you're going to set those to something that might be astronomical and it would have negative impacts on our small business owners and entrepreneurs who are required to get that professional license, then 30 days of public comment period. Mm-hmm. If 25 people ask for a public hearing after the comment period closes, there must be public hearing, where people are allowed to come and speak out, and they can hear and look people in the eye and tell them why they think this is a bad idea. So it slows down the rulemaking authority. Should the board go ahead and pass rules, they are subject to legislative review. Mm-hmm. So legislators at that point can join a joint committee of the House and Senate and vote them down. Mm-hmm. They can put together an objection that could be used in a legal proceeding, or they could suggest that maybe these need to be codified. There's all kinds of things that can happen, but that is a strengthening of the separation of powers. It takes a huge bite out of unelected bureaucrats being able to bully the individual Georgian in these situations where rules that are not passed through the legislative process, but create tremendous burden on individual Georgians can actually create a check and balance. And it returns that lawmaking authority back to the legislature. Super good bill.
Yes. Awesome. I love it.
Super good bill. Like, Alan Powell also gets the Peach Pundit thumb up from me today, because
double thumbs up. Yes.
And you might be thinking, well, Scott, what's your interest in this? I told you about, I've been trying to do this for over a decade, but also in the subcommittee, my court case, the EVA case, where we reestablished the non-delegation doctrine, was discussed at length. Yeah. So because of our court case win, where we were saying all laws should be made by the legislature, not by unelected bureaucrats, the legislature is now having to adopt things like this. So
Yeah.
the work of Eternal Vigilance Action continues to have a ripple effect. And that court case continues to have a ripple effect.
And look, also, Scott, this isn't just to slam government bureaucrats. This is to say there should be a more rigorous approach to crafting rules and regulations on the regulatory side.
Mm-hmm.
So the trickle-down effect will be bureaucrats, and many of them are just wonderful people who are trying to do the right thing, have to be more diligent, more rigorous. And that's a good thing. And the good ones in our state government, many of them want this. Because yes, we should be held to public scrutiny just like laws that are passed in the state of Georgia. So this is good stuff. I love it.
In the Signal chat, the Peach Pundit Signal chat this morning, one of our Patreons said, I wish you guys would talk about Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution and why our framers put it first. And I laughed because we were planning to talk about this. I said, well, indirectly, this is what we're talking about.
Well, dear listener.
Yeah. Well, and here it goes, right? I'm going to read to you Article 1, Section 1, the very first words that our founders put pen to paper on. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Our state constitution has that same clause.
Yes. Good. I was going to bring that point up.
Right. The important thing to note here is when it comes to articles of the Constitution, Article 1 is the only article that grants all types of one specific authority to one branch of government. It is the only sentence where it uses the word all of a certain type of power. All legislative powers are granted to the Senate and the House. All.
Yep. Like if you read the Federalist Papers and what many of the founding fathers wrote, yes, we have separation of powers, we have co-equal branches of government, but they clearly felt that among the equals, the legislature should be more equal because it is a direct representation of the people.
So all you populists out there who are like executive orders, let's do that. No. You cannot
Congress.
create law through executive order.
The legislature.
It has to
strengthen
go
the
through
legislature. Yes.
And this is something I want to drive home, right? We can have policy disagreements, and I can even support a concept or an idea. And this was true. This was true even in our lawsuit because I was like, I'm not opposed to video cameras on drop boxes. I like that idea.
Yeah.
It's the process that has to be defended.
Right.
It's the way you do it that has to matter. Because if you allow for slippage, if you allow for the slippery slope to take effect on allowing unelected bureaucrats within an agency or the president and the executive to make law without going to the legislature or even a governor to make law without going to the legislature, you are violating this concept that all legislative authority belongs. Our elected legislature should be the ones who make the playbook.
Yes.
And I may disagree with what they come up with. I may love what the president is saying. I may love what my governor is saying. But if you want it to be in the playbook or in the rule book, you have to go through the legislative process.
Yes.
That's it for the substantive matters. Who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl, Buzz?
I am rooting for the Seattle Seahawks for a couple of reasons. One, I just love Sam Darnold has been dumped on and criticized for pretty much his whole career, even like last season when he led Minnesota to 14-3 record, but they lost in the first round of the playoffs. So they said, oh, this dude's a bust. And here he is again in Seattle, leading a team to a 14-3 record and now to the Super Bowl. So I love that story that a guy who everybody wrote off led his team to the Super Bowl. But also, I could never in a gazillion years root for the New England Patriots. I just can't. I just can't.
That warms my Miami Dolphins fan.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. My heritage is from Miami. I've always been hopeful that the Dolphins would get it back together, but still.
It's going to happen one day.
We don't need another
the ghost
dynasty.
of Don Shula will rise and guide
We
the
don't
team.
need another the Kraft family recreating a dynasty in New England again.
Right. So yeah, it's been funny to watch sports Twitter through this, and they're kind of like, we didn't want the Chiefs to win because we were tired of seeing them winning, but could it have been anybody but the Patriots
Yeah. Yes.
in the AFC? Please.
But you do have to tip your hat. Drake May, another guy, when he came out of college, I saw him as an ACC guy. I saw him and I said, this dude is really, really good. When he's at North Carolina, I said, he's going to be a good pro quarterback. And then, I can't believe the Patriots picked him. What a bum. Blah, 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 blah. He's a darn good quarterback.
That's just the SEC homers.
And Mike Vrabel is a heck of a coach. And the Falcons interviewed both of these coaches, by the way, and chose Raheem Morris. Bless his heart.
And on that unfortunate note, we're going to end the podcast by telling you about the people who rock. These are the people who voluntarily reach into their pocket every single month and just throw us as little as $5. It's voluntary, but we love them because they keep us doing what we're doing. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do this. If you want to join them, you can head on over to patreon.com/Peach Pundit. This is also an opportune time to remind you to hit that like button and subscribe. These are the people who rock. Adam Pethel, Tony West, and our friends at Americans for Prosperity, Amy Davis. We have multiple anonymous contributors, including one who wants you to know more about the Alzheimer's Association. Bethany Ballard, Bill Werkheiser, Bo Brannon, Colin Martin, Daniel Shaver, Elizabeth Clare, Gabe Hartwig, George Cobble, Greer Howard, Hank Burnham, Harrison Edwards, Jacqueline Harn, James Hall, Jason Bankston, John Vestal, Jordan Reed, JT Marshburn, Ken Pullen, Kenyatta Mitchell, Lawton Sack, Mike Buchert, Randall Trammell, Reed Powell, Robert Lee, Ron Daniels, Ryan Graham, Ryan Purvis, Sam Thomas, Sergio Ortega, Shannon Ferguson, and Stuart Wilkinson. You have been listening to Peach Pundit The Podcast. I'm Scott Turner. That's Buzz Brockway. All the music you hear is original by Jason Pye, and all of this is owned and published by me, even if I disagree with some of the stuff that's published. Thank you, guys. Catch you
Go
next
Jackets.
time.